we're going to talk about the martyrdom of the Prophet Joseph Smith, June 27, 1844. This is a sad story that takes a long time to tell. I hope you'll be patient as I try to go through it with you. I've been learning a lot myself this past few weeks as I've been trying to relearn how to talk again. One of the problems with my disease is it takes away the person's ability to talk. But I have a great speech therapist named Natalie Wright who's trying to help me. Let's see how I do today. I hope to do better. We're talking about a very sad topic, the martyrdom of the Prophet Joseph Smith. I hope that I can do a good job. Here we go. Josiah Quincy, a prominent New England citizen who later became the mayor of Boston, visited Joseph Smith 2 months before the martyrdom. Many years later, he wrote about the people who had most impressed him during his lifetime. Regarding Joseph Smith, he wrote, quote, "It is by no means improbable that some future textbook for the use of generations yet unborn will contain a question something like this. What historical American of the 19th century has exerted the most powerful influence on the destinies of his countrymen? It is by no means impossible that the answer to the question may be thus written, Joseph Smith, the one prophet." That's from Josiah Quincy, Figures of the Past, Leaves of My Old Journals, 5th edition, Boston, Massachusetts. First, I want to talk about the Nauvoo conspiracy. This is a little known by members of the church, but I think it's important for you to know what's going on here. The Nauvoo conspiracy involved around 200 people. We do not have an entire list of all those who were involved. 2 boys named Denison Harris and Robert Scott were invited to attend the meeting with it, along with others. Robert Scott had been living with William Law, who was 16 years old, and William Law, of course, is the one that invited him to come. The Lord had told the prophet Joseph Smith to be careful of these things. It said in section 5, verse 22, and that you be firm in keeping the commandments which wherewith I have commanded you. And if you do this, be able to grant you eternal life, even if you should be slain. And then in section 6, verse 30, the Lord tells Joseph Smith, "And even if you do unto them even as you have done to me, blessed are you, for you shall dwell with me in glory." They say one more time, "And even if they do unto you as they have done to me, blessed are you, for you shall dwell with me in glory." Then, of course, in section 122, verse 9, the Lord tells Joseph Smith the following. "Therefore, hold on thy way, and thy priesthood shall remain with thee, for their bounds are set, they cannot pass. Thy days are known, and thy years shall not be numbered less. Therefore fear not what man can do, for God will be with you forever and ever." During the Nauvoo period, Joseph Smith felt increasingly the forebodings of the Spirit that his ministry on earth was nearing its end. He expressed his feelings to those closest to him and occasionally spoke to them and to the saints about them in general. He said, quote, "I shall not be sacrificed until my time comes, then I shall be offered freely." By June 1844, animosity against the church was greatly intensified. Some citizens in Illinois were discussing during the saints from the state, while others were planning to kill the prophet Joseph Smith. Some of those who were conspiring against the prophet and the church were former members of the church who had apostatized, like William Law in the First Presidency. Francis Henry became a bitter enemy to Joseph Smith because of the adultery charges, as well as being accused in public of aiding the Missourians. Others joined who are discontent with formal marriage and other new doctrines, including William Law, the Second Council of the First Presidency, and his brother Wilson, and others, all believing Joseph was a fallen prophet. Joseph prophesied that there was a Judas among them, and enlarged the peace to carefully watch the apostate activities. Denison Harris was the nephew of Martin Harris. Don Oaks comes from that line. The boys weren't comfortable going to the meeting that had been invited to, but Joseph encouraged them to attend anyway. The prophet said, quote, "Boys, I want you to go to the meeting and tell me what takes place." They went and discovered it was a conspiracy to kill the prophet. They reported back to Joseph and told him that another meeting had been planned. The prophet said, quote, "Boys, the tenor of the meeting will change. This time they might kill you, but I don't think they will, but I would like you to attend anyway." Both the boys were willing to attend the meeting despite the fact that their lives were in danger. Joseph was right. The tone of the meeting was different this time. There was hatred among the people who desired to kill the prophet. There was hatred among the people who desired to kill Joseph Smith. In the meeting, the people took an oath administered by Francis Huey. He said, quote, "You solemnly swear before God and all holy angels that these your brethren by whom you are surrounded, that you give your life, your liberty, and your influence, your all for the destruction of Joseph Smith and his party, so help you God." Those prisoners responded that they would give their lives to kill Joseph Smith. They were all required to put their hands in the Bible and make their oath. Over 200 men and at least 3 women signed the document. The two boys could not identify them because they had veils on. After everyone had signed the document, the two boys were also invited to do so. They told the group that they were too young to know about such things and would not sign. Joseph had told them to sign nothing prior to their going to the meeting. The group pressured the boys to sign. One of the men in the meeting told the boys that they knew too much and that they had better make the oath and sign the document or they would be killed. The group decided not to kill the boys, but they did threaten them with horrible things that they would do to them and their families if they said anything about the meeting. Joseph was worried because the boys had not yet returned from the meeting, so he started looking for them. The two boys actually found Joseph and told him everything. Joseph commended them for their faith. The Law Brothers, along with their sympathizers, were excommunicated from the church. They organized a reformed church and sent out proselytizers in Nauvoo to try to convince as many families as possible to join their ranks. They ordered a printing press and began publication of the, quote, Nauvoo Expositor, which the aim was to slander and expose Joseph as a fallen prophet. In an attempt to inflame the public against the prophet and the church, these men used this newspaper to slander Joseph and other church leaders. Joseph Smith, acting as the mayor of Nauvoo, and the majority of the Nauvoo City Council recognized that the inflammatory newspaper would lead to mob violence against the city. They declared the newspaper a public nuisance and ordered that the Nauvoo Expositor should be destroyed. Now, a lot of people have wondered about the destruction of the Nauvoo Expositor, the press. It fit within the laws of the time. The action seemed to spite the antagonists inside and outside the Nauvoo, and it gave Joseph's enemies an opportunity to denounce and persecute him. However, other destruction of the press, Elder Oaks points out this significant note. This is from President Oaks. Quote, "The amendment to the United States Constitution that extended the guaranteed freedom of the press to protect against the actions of the city and the state governments was not adopted until 1868. It was not enforced as a matter of federal law until 1931. We should judge the actions of our predecessors on the basis of the laws and commandments and circumstances of their day, not ours." That's from Joseph the Man and the Prophet from the Ensign, May 1996, page 72. As a result of the destruction of the Nauvoo Expositor by the mayor and the city council, Illinois authorities brought an unfounded charge of rioting against the prophet, as were the hiremen and other Nauvoo city officials. The governor of Illinois, Thomas Ford, ordered the men to stand trial in Carthage, Illinois, the county seat of promise and protection. Joseph knew that if he went to Carthage, his life would be in great danger from the mobs who were threatening him. He was told he was to surrender for trial to state leaders. He knew if he did, he would be a dead man. He received a revelation, and the Lord told him to take the church and go into the wilderness. This would fulfill the words of Isaiah about the church being built on the tops of the mountains. Joseph said that he and Hiram were to go away to the west. His prophecy has been documented by several sources: Samuel Richards, Brigham Young, Orson Pratt, John Taylor, Mosiah Hancock, William Clayton, Lorenzo Snow, among others. Arrangements were made on the 23rd of June for him to depart. They sent Porter Walpole back to get horses and supplies. When Porter returned, he had some of the brethren with him, and they told Joseph and Hiram they were being accused of being cowards and running from their enemies. Joseph then made the following famous statement: if my life is no value to my friends, then it is no value to myself. Joseph turned to Hiram and asked him what they should do. Hiram's advice was, we should return. That's what the people want us. Amos sent a letter to Joseph with the men, but we don't know what it said. Someone said that it wrote that Joseph was a coward. She might have asked him to come back, but it is highly unlikely that she would ever call him a coward. Joseph made the prophetic statement that if we go back, we are dead men, and I am not a prophet, or I am not a prophet of God. The document related to the conversation that Stephen Markham had with the prophet while he was in Carthage jail. Markham asked the prophet if he felt he would again be delivered as he had been on former occasions. Joseph replied, "When I was with the people as their leader, the Lord blessed me with the wisdom of the Spirit, which for me was to take his people into the wilderness. However, being closely pursued by the brethren who said, 'You always said you would not leave us, but now the wolf is coming on us and you leave us.' Putting this to the mind of the saints, we returned to Nauvoo. And now he said, 'I know no more than other men. I have given up my agency and suffered that myself to be led by those who I should lead.'" Joseph Hiram returned on June 23, 1844. Other historians report that Joseph Hiram had no intentions of going west, but rather to Washington, D.C. to plead with President Taylor for assistance. See Linda K. Newell, Emma Hale Smith, and her preliminary question from the John Whitmer Historical Journal, Volume 4, page 15. Either way, the prophet realized he was giving up his agency when he went back to Nauvoo, and he was going to go to Carthage. He was going to die. And he told the people, he told the brethren, he felt like he lost his gift of prophecy because he wasn't following the Lord's Spirit, which was to take the people to the mountain west, but instead he was following the voice of the people, which was to go to Carthage and die. What a sad commentary for the members of the church to think that the prophet Joseph gave his gift of being a prophet, gave his seership because he followed the people instead of the Lord. But anyway, that's what the documents tell us. On June 24th, Joseph and Hiram Smith bade farewell to their families and rode with the Nauvoo city officials towards Carthage, voluntarily surrendering themselves to county officials in the Carthage the next day. After the brothers had been released on bail for the initial charge, they were falsely charged with treason against the state of Illinois, arrested and imprisoned in Carthage jail to await a hearing. Illinois Governor Thomas Ford summoned Joseph to Carthage, the county seat, to answer charges of inciting a riot. Joseph appeared at the hearing and entered into recognizance, promising to appear for trial at the next term of the circuit court. But a conspiracy was afoot, and before he could return to Nauvoo, Joseph and his brother Hiram were immediately arrested on charges of treason against the state of Illinois. On that pretense, they were committed to jail to await their examination, but many people knew that they were jailed to facilitate the murders. There would be no trial, only a massacre. Governor Ford promised to protect them, but the militiamen he provided as protectors were themselves complicit with the lynch mob, who shot Joseph Hiram in the heat of June 27, 1844. It was a deliberate political assassination, committed or condoned by some of the leading citizens of Hancock County. On the night of the 26th of June, a significant prophecy was made. Dan Jones and Joseph Smith were lying on the floor, trying to get some rest. Joseph said, "Dan, are you afraid to die?" Dan said, "Do you think that time has come?" The prophet didn't answer him, for it simply said that Dan would live to serve a mission in Wales and would perform a great work. Dan Jones later baptized over 2,000 people in his homeland of Wales. On the 27th of June, the prophet sent Dan Jones out to see what the noise was during the night. Dan did so and was now let back into the jail. John Fulmer and Silas Wheelock came to the jail for a visit and smuggled in 2 pistols. One was a pepper box and the other was a single shot. The prophet gave the single shot to Hiram. Hiram said, "I don't like guns, I don't like to use them." The prophet said, "Neither do I, Hiram, but we might have to." Hiram never fired the pistol. If you go to the Church History Museum, you can see on display the pepper box and the 6-shooter that Joseph and Hiram had while they were in the Carthage jail. You can also visit the Carthage jail and see it with being led through it by the missionaries. George Stagel and his wife and 7 children lived in the jail. They were the, quote, jailers. Mrs. Stagel almost got shot on the day of the martyrdom. She was baking bread and bending over to look in the oven when a bullet went over her head into the wall. 8 men were locked up. John Taylor, Will Richards, John Green, Stephen Markin, Dan Jones, John Fuller, and Lorenzo Wassam. None of those men had to be in the jail except for Joseph and Hiram. It was their choice to be there. On the 26th of June, at about 9:30 a.m., Governor Ford visited with Joseph Smith for a few minutes. Joseph spent the rest of the morning writing letters to his family. On the hot and humid afternoon of June 27th, the spirit of foreboding came upon the prophet and those who were with him as they sat in the jail's bedroom on the second floor of the jail. Hiram asked John Taylor to sing a poem by Wayfaring Man of Grief. A poem by Wayfaring Man of Grief, originally titled The Stranger and His Friend, is a 7-stanza poem written in 1826 by James Montgomery. The words of the poem have since been adopted as a Christian hymn. The melody is by George Coles. The hymn was introduced in the church by Apostle John Taylor, who learned the hymn in 1840 as a missionary in England. John Taylor loved the poem but found the music a bit bland. He adapted from it his own version of the tune. It is this variation that was sung in Carthage jail. Joseph asked Hiram to read Ether chapter 12 verses 36 to 38. He then asked John Taylor to sing To a Stranger, which was later known as the Wayfaring Man of Grief. When John Taylor finished singing the hymn, Joseph asked him to sing it again, which John Taylor said, I don't feel like it. The prophet said, sing it again and you'll get the spirit of it. There were 4 apostles in the jail, 2 who would live and 2 would die. On the afternoon of the 26th of June 1844, Frank Worrell, leader of the Carthage Grace, took command of guarding the jail. He was the one who let the mob in. Months after the martyrdom, Frank Worrell accidentally ran into Arnold Porter Rockwell. Porter Rockwell shot and killed him right off his horse. Rockwell later said that it was one of the greatest days of his life. Remember, Porter Rockwell said, they never killed a man that didn't deserve it to die. That same day, Joseph was visited by John Smith and others. They were not allowed to stay in the jail with him. If you go to the jail today, you can see the stairwell on the second floor where the bedroom where the prophet and his brother and John Taylor and Will Richards stayed. It's not the jail cell. It was a bedroom. A large group of men were coming to Warsaw Road with blackened faces. They were covered with tar and coal as a disguise to hide their true identities. The guards of the jail offered no resistance, and shots were fired into the air. The men came up the stairs. Hiram Smith and Will Richards put their hands on the door. A bullet went through the door and hit Hiram on the left side of his nose. The bullet entered just under his eye and exited through his ear. It pierced his vein and he bled to death. As Hiram fell back, he cried out, I am a dead man. John Taylor said it had been imprinted on his mind for all eternity, the facial expression of Joseph Smith. When he looked down and saw his brother dead. I'll never forget the look on Joseph Smith's face, he said, as he knelt over his brother and said, oh my poor dear brother Hiram. If you go there today, the bullet hole is still in the door. The hole is still in the door of the bullet that went through and killed Hiram Smith. Joseph sprang to the door and reached around the door for him to shoot the pistol into the hallway. Only 3 of the 16-year-olds fired, wounding some members of the mob. The mob then forced their guns through the half-closed door, and then John Taylor tried to beat the barrels of their guns with a walking stick. As the conflict of the doorway increased, John Taylor tried to escape the room through a window. As he attempted to leave out the window, he was shot in the thigh from the doorway and also was shot by someone outside. He fell to the floor while attempting to get into the bed next to the window. He was severely wounded by 3 more shots. Meanwhile, as his guns came to the doorway, Will Richards began striking with the cane. The impact against the windowsill shattered and stopped his watch. John Taylor's watch became a symbol of the event. It stopped at 5 o'clock, 60 minutes and 26 seconds. And you can see the watch on display at the Church History Museum. Joseph had told the Lord that they would come and he would be standing there where bullets would fly as thick as a hailstorm. He would not be hurt. It was given about a year before the martyrdom. Joseph then asked if he believed it. The Lord said no. Joseph said, why? He said, because I've been in a hailstorm before and I got hit lots of times. And he said, you will see it happen. It did happen in Carthage. One of the bullets nicked his ear, causing a little trickle of blood. The bullets were flying around him like hail in a storm. He was a big man and weighed well over 300 pounds, but he was not hit. The great prophecy was fulfilled. Joseph Smith then decided to try to escape through the same window that John Taylor tried to escape through. As Will Richards continued to deflect him out the door, the prophet leaped to the open window. As he did so, he was struck by bullets from both inside and outside the jail. He fell out of the window exclaiming, oh Lord my God, and landed on the ground below. The members of the mob who were inside the jail rushed outside to assure themselves that Joseph was dead. Although there were no members of the church on their way to Carthage, someone yelled, the Romans are coming, and the mob fled. Joseph Smith approached the window, and I believe, because of what I know about Joseph Smith, decided to jump out the window in order to save his friends. 2 bullets hit him from the back and 2 from the front. He looked at the window and said, "Oh Lord my God, I don't believe that Joseph Smith was giving the Masonic distress signal. The Masonic distress signal is, oh Lord my God, is there no help for the widow's mite?" which Joseph Smith did not say. But he does leap from the outside window. There have been many paintings of the martyrdom, and they all show Joseph Smith as a fallen prophet. John told us one of the other side by well riches and covered with straw. Takes when I saved his life, they may have clotted his blood. Will Richards stood waiting for the mobs to come back, but they had already fled. Samuel Smith, with the help of Mr. Hamilton, took both bodies to the Hamilton house, where they cleaned the dead bodies. Those who were responsible for the death of the prophet Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram on June 27, 1844, were not who you might think they were, according to one presenter at the BYU Studies 50th Anniversary Symposium. Deborah Marsh, then a master's student at the University of Utah, presented evidence that the members of the Illinois mob that sought to put an end to Mormonism in the Carthage jail didn't run away because of the Mormon curse. As N.B. Lundwall claimed in his book, The Fate of the Persecutors of the Prophet Joseph Smith, went on to live normal lives. Another characteristic for being short was found in the introduction of Volume 6 of the History of the Church, which called the mob a criminal element and ruffians, is incorrect either, Marsh said. Marsh, in her paper, Respectable Assassins, a collective biography and socioeconomic study of the Carthage mob, seemed that contrary to popular belief, the mobsters did not suffer from their actions and actually were respected by people who went on to greater accomplishments. The Carthage mob members lived normal lifespans, through which they prospered financially, Marsh said. They ran for one political office and generally appeared to be protected and honored by their fellow citizens for their participation in the murders of Joseph and Hiram Smith. Marsh used a list of 89 men compiled by Sheriff Jacob Backenstolz and a variety of other records to paint a picture of who these mobsters really were. According to our research, while they came from the same regions of the country as others who lived in the area, the mobsters were generally older than the general male population of Hancock County, and were mostly learned professionals, businessmen, and farmers who had their own property. The mob also had 16 men who held 24 different public offices, including state senator and U.S. senator. A large majority of the mob would have been considered in the upper class. This was a group of men that represented the top tier of Hancock County in regards to power and socioeconomic status, she says. Morris then showed what happened to the mob after the martyrdom of the Smith brothers. Most of these individuals seem to have lived normal lifespans in which they prospered, Marsh said. Obviously, living a long life doesn't necessarily translate into good fortune. But if financial well-being is an indicator of the quality of one's life, then they all lived quite well. In 1850, the average earnings of the mob were earning more than the U.S. average, with mobsters earning $1,540 compared to $1,050 for the average American. But at the end of the decade, mobsters had increased their earnings by 250%, or 5 times the national average, earning an average of $7,842 compared to $2,140. One member, Mark Aldrich, was extremely successful in the California gold rush. Later he became a merchant in Tucson, Arizona, with his personal estate valued at $50,000. Another, Jacob C. Davis, ended up being a state senator and eventually a U.S. senator for Illinois. Mob members held 24 public offices between 1844 and 1856. Marsh also referred to various historical document accounts in which men list being part of the proceedings as Carthage jail as one of their life's greatest achievements. Pause for 1 second, please. So not only were the mob members not poor, they all died rich and in various political public offices. Some people are uncomfortable with the idea that the mob members prospered. I know that the notion that an unseen hand is first suggested to the wicked is very comforting, Marsh said. However, it quite simply isn't true. The wicked often prosper in this life. As many of us believe, though, we will all have to account for actions, if not in this life, in the next. The most important fact remains regards to what happened to the Carthage mob. Joseph and Hiram Smith were martyrs for God, and Joseph did no more save Jesus only for the salvation of men in this world than any of the men that lived in it. According to Dallin Oaks and Marvin Hill, Wills, Voris, and Gallagher were probably the names in the indictment because of their wounds, which testimony showed were received at the jail, were irrefutable evidence that they had participated in the mob. The indictment recognized their vulnerability